Cities and counties and regions all over the world for decades have been driven by the pursuit of growth, right? That's the paradigm that's dominated the world. We need to grow, and that's how we're going to measure whether we're succeeding or not.
For the past, few decades, and even you could argue centuries, we've been relying on a growth model, sort of an economic system that kind of predicates on infinite growth. And this seems like quite an illogical concept, I guess, the idea of infinite growth within a finite planet's resources.
Policymakers and communities and people in places are saying that is not what we would imagine as our success here. We want to thrive where we live. We want to be a thriving community. We want to live in a place on this planet that is also thriving for our children, for the future, and in a way that we know that isn't undermining the lives of others worldwide. So it's a paradigm change in what we believe is a prosperous place.
Everybody's needs are not met, so we have to reimagine an economy that makes sure that everybody's safe.
So economic growth that doesn't put social and environmental factors centre stage is quite unlikely to be just, to be sustainable and to deliver the future that we want.
We need to get involved now. We need to develop a sense of real urgency about this. We really can't allow growth that puts our society outside of planetary boundaries, and we really don't want to have a situation where we miss our social objectives as well.
In Oxfordshire, where we've got incredible universities that have developed all these new ways of thinking about the way that we live and do things, it seems very appropriate that Oxfordshire is considering doughnut economics and a new way of doing macroeconomics on a very large scale, and also thinking about how to bring that down to the locality and how Oxfordshire can prosper not just environmentally but also socially.
The doughnut is a compass for 21st century prosperity. Think of a doughnut, the kind with a hole in the middle. The goal is to leave nobody in the hole, falling short on the essentials of life. Nobody without the resources they need for food and health and housing, education, mobility. Get everybody out of the hole. But we cannot overshoot the outer crust of the doughnut, because there we would put so much pressure on the life support systems of our planetary home that we would push her out of balance. So we've got to find a balance between the two, meet the needs of all people within the means of the living planet. That's the doughnut. Doughnut Economics says, how the heck are we going to do that? And that's what we're here doing today.
If we then look at the space in between us now, we've created the shape of the doughnut, which we put forward as the space, the safe and just space for humanity, where we are meeting the needs of all the people here, but we're doing so within the means of the living planet.
It's just a framework to help bring people together to look at all the different aspects within society and beyond that, and how to work together to work within the kind of the doughnut to make a sustainable path forward, whether it's for the people or the environment.
We need to work together to create a far more distributed world in which resources are shared far more equitably. We know that this country is one of the most divided, unequal countries in Europe amongst other countries of our own income level, right? We are one of the most unequal countries. How can we make it a far more equitable one? How can we make this county, this city, a far more equitable place? Through the way we redesign the way we live. We've created a global economy in which we stick stuff in the pipe of production. We stick everything together, organic matter, plastics, what the heck it is, we don't stick in the pipe of production. We make it into stuff we want. We use it for a while, often only once, chuck it away. And then we spew the waste out the end. This is a linear, degenerative economy we've created. We've got to go from linear and degenerative to circular, cyclical, regenerative, reusing the resources that we have, reducing our use of them, all of it happening, of course, with renewable energies.
And doughnut economics, I think, is about making economic and political and social systems work for a lot more people than it currently does, and that's exciting, and that's a cause for real hope.
So all around the world, cities and towns and regions are asking, how can we take action to bring ourselves so that we are living in that safe and just space of the doughnut? And here today, people from all across Oxfordshire are gathering to ask these questions of Oxfordshire. What would it mean to come up with a new economic plan that actually aims to meet the needs of every person here within the means of the living planet, so that we are thriving here, but also we respect our impact on people and planet worldwide? So we've got people from so many different backgrounds and experience coming together to envision and dream that possibility.
And it's fantastic to see sometimes how diverse perspectives come together when they realise actually we're all after the same thing, which, as we get to the bottom line, is well-being of future generations, but also how different perspectives are really important to listen to in the conversation, because that's how we're going to scale change at the speed we need.
And actually coming to a place like this where you've got over 100 people from all different areas and different parts of society coming together and just bringing their side of it and their stance and just coming up with lots of different ideas. It's just really interesting to see, and it's just nice to hear things you just haven't even thought about before.
I've been working in sustainability for a while, and I know from experience that doing these sort of cross-sectoral workshops where you've got representation from business, from local authority, from the university, from charities, from community action groups, that's crucial. It's not any one organisation or one sector's responsibility to tackle the climate and ecological crisis or to tackle social injustice. It's up to all of us to work together, and I think that that's what we saw in the room today.
You've got to have people who live in a place, who experience its systems and who are passionate and care for its long-term health. You've also got to have a huge diversity of people. Nobody knows everything. Nobody can see everything or has experienced everything. There's so much richness, as you can hear in the chat behind me, there's so much richness when people talk and listen across lines of experience and of lines of concern. When we put our ideas together, we will come up with new possibilities that no one alone would have seen. We ask a tiny question, you can see, right? We have this very little question. Actually, it's not really a tiny question at all. It's a huge question. Here it is. How can our county, how could Oxfordshire become a home to thriving people in a thriving place while respecting the well-being of all people and the health of the whole planet? You can hear that's a big, complex question. So we break it up and say, we care about our local aspirations. We care about how things are here, the vision we have for living in this place, but we know that every place is connected to the whole world. And therefore, we must also have our global responsibilities. Seeking to live well here cannot be to the detriment of the lives of others. So you've got local, global, ecological, and social. You've got the four lenses. How can we think about the future of Oxfordshire through these lenses? And there are many really creative ways that we can do this. So we call it one portrait, but with many layers that you can add. Some places and governments like to start with, okay, what are our targets and where are we missing targets? And how do we measure that? You can add questions about, okay, what are our strengths? What assets do we have here? Let's celebrate what's already here. There is so much wealth and possibility. Let's really focus on that and celebrate what's in action. And let's recognize the challenges. In each of these four lenses, where do we think are the really big challenges in this county? We could name challenges across things, but what are the ones that just stand out where we must start taking action? We can focus on questions that open up a deeper exploration, that might help us see something we hadn't seen in here before. We can bring history and stories. Why is this city owned the way it's owned? Imagination. Okay, what's possible? What have we learned and seen in other places that we could be doing here? Or not even in other places. Let's just open up our imagination and imagine something so much more ambitious that we know the future actually calls us into imagining.
So from a building point of view in regards to Doughnut Economics, there's a whole spectrum of things you can look at. Using the existing buildings and making the best of them in the sense of making them more sustainable, making them more accessible, making them more affordable, with new housing and new buildings, and doing it in a sustainable way of where you do it, using brownfield sites, repurposing buildings, and using the framework within Doughnut Economics to help structure that, basically.
I'd like to see us kind of move to the next stage where we're really talking about action, where we can prioritise the identified areas that we're interested in, maybe work on the trade-offs. What can't we do yet? What can't we do, in the near future, but what can we act on?
In the earlier exercise when we were holding up cards, mine was diversity and equality, and I think we all have limited perspectives based on our backgrounds and the opportunities we have. And there's still definitely more we have to do to get more kind of diverse voices represented and heard.
And I think we're really good to bring people from different aspects of society, whether it's from people who from less privileged backgrounds, who are kind of struggling to get them in here and get their voice, but also from you could say the establishment, from people who are running big organisations and come down to them, bring everybody together. I think that would be really nice to see that.
I'm really hoping that as a result of this workshop, there's going to be a lot more collaborative effort around sustainability and around social justice. So I'm hoping that as a result of this, there'll be more of these kinds of meetings. There will be the ability to feed this into, county-wide strategy and to have a real strategic impact.
I think from this workshop, I'd like to see, a follow-on and more development of the overall ideas and leading to a formal way that this group of people or a wider or narrower group of people can provide a voice to the decision making that goes on and hopefully influence very strongly the decision making that goes on in this county and beyond.
One of the goals of this workshop is to come up with a new vision for Oxfordshire and a new economic plan for the future. It would be fantastic to see if the tools of Doughnut Economics can be useful towards that journey, to come up with ideas that so many people feel that they have together constructed, serves as a vision, actually could happen in this county.